Hello, my name's Elijah Wells, and today I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different, as in, we're talking about the wonders of keeping a film journal. Well, for real, I've been having this little journal with me called the Cine-Note since 2014, as in, I've documented all the films I've watched on the big screen, as in all films I've watched in cinema, since 2014. And for a little proof of it, you can see like the pages like on here and there, as in it's starting to weather out and starting to like crumple away or something, and also the yellow part of it as well, due to I may have brought along with me when it was raining or something. But anywho, okay, I remember the first film I've put on there being Frozen, which I did watch on the 15th of February 2014, as in, yeah, that long ago. It was also on the same day when I watched Monuments Men, which again, also on the very same day. I think at the same place, being View Cinema in Cambridge, which unfortunately just recently closed down, so RIP. So I think maybe it may have been a New Year's resolution, maybe. I can't remember how this came about, like me making a journal of all this. So how I usually break it down is, here's the thing for the Hayao Miyazaki's supposedly last film he did, being The Wind Rises. I did it beyond like music. I did like scored it based on its music or soundtrack, acting, and yes, I usually put acting with animated films, even though it's done mostly by computers and artists. So just kind of roll my logic. Screenplay, story, humor and romance, and visual effects. Again, I was a little bit weird about the visual effects part and my part, just because I gave like animation a bit of a different mark as opposed to like live action stuff. But I did tend to respect it a lot more as I grow up more and more and understand the complications about animation and visual effects and all that. So I gave it like an 8.0 or something out of 10. But I think it was around 2018 when I kind of realized that, okay, it was around 2018 where I kind of stopped doing the scoring thing, because it's kind of somewhat a bit counterintuitive, because maybe if I did a couple of scores like too low or too high, then it may reflect like I've rated it a bit too highly or a bit too low, in my opinion. Like other examples, like seriously, the pages of this thing is like literally falling apart at this point. So for something like Arrival, I gave it 8.1 and pretty much gave glowing scores pretty much all across the board. Fantastic Beasts, I gave it an 8.0, which must have aged a little bit poorly, just on sole purpose that the Fantastic Beasts just kind of crashed and burned due to one too many scandals, not due to like Ezra Miller, Johnny Depp, and J.K. Rowling, just being just pretty problematic people altogether. They're solid, that film I really like. I watched it on Netflix like a couple of years ago, actually. When I watched it, of course, 11th November, Arrival, 12th of December of 2016, 9th of December, then 17th of December, Rogue One, which is I think one of the few films I watched it twice in the cinema, but again, which is another weird reason I do, is that I don't do like multiples of the same film, like if I go to see a film twice, which is, I think has happened just twice during my, three times. When I watched Narnia as a kid, I watched it with my family, then with school. Then there was the Star Wars movies, being Rogue One and Last Jedi, which I remember watching with my family, then watching it with my college on in the IMAX cinema, which again, a really good experience that was. And again, I've been continuing doing this, and of course, I still rate things how they were accordingly. Like The Apprentice on the 21st of October, then 1st November being Wild Robot, Paddington 16th November, 20th November being Gladiator 2. But you may notice I don't do the scoring at that much anymore, just because it felt a bit weird. Like, okay, I feel like I kind of overscored it or kind of underscored it. Like, I like that a little bit more, but I think it's kind of my weird scoring system that at best doesn't make all that too much sense. And the last films I've done on this journal, because think of it, like I started with like Frozen, Monuments Men, then later on with Grand Budapest Hotel, Captain America, I think that was, I don't know, Winter Soldier, then Rio 2. Then I ended it with Jurassic World Rebirth, which I did see recently, and it's my first screening, first film I've seen at the new cinema, the Everyman, at the Lions Yard, or Grand Arcade, whatever it's called now. And also Superman, which I did really enjoy, which is, again, the last film I have seen in my little Cine-Note. I think the Cine-Note was kind of a little bit of a nod to like the famous anime series that came out a few years before when I did this, it being Death Note, which is, again, the premise is simple. You write a name in it, and the person's name who's on it dies of a heart attack. And of course, there's a lot of intrigue about it with like law enforcement and ethics and all that. Again, I haven't got around seeing Death Note yet, so I kind of kicked myself in the ass a little bit. So again, this is my little journal. And yes, I am putting all the films that I've written on this and kind of gave them a little bit of a score and all that on Letterboxd, as in I'm putting it all together on a list just so it can live in a little bit of a digital sphere now. And also you can, if you have Letterboxd, you can see how much of these films you've watched all together. Like you can, maybe you've watched half of the films I mentioned on this book, or maybe all of them. If so, you're probably me, or probably none of them. If so, please watch a movie, please. So, anywho, but I'm writing a new one with this Wasn't Gromit book I got from TK Maxx, I think from a year ago actually, so I'm taking a little bit of a different approach with this one. Although this was conceived by a 15, 16-year-old who thought the fairly weird scoring thing was going to last, but I kind of did it for like well over a decade. So you can look at all these films I have watched. These films are, yeah, quite a lot. So, but however, I'm taking a little bit of a different approach with this one. Like, for example, this is like what I've written, like quite a lot of it. Like, I'm basically doing like a much more sophisticated journal writing. I've done it with an epilogue about how do I get in this position, like all that, and I've also gave it a little title instead of being the Cine-Note, being a somewhat of a cheeky nod to the anime Death Note. I've given it a title, a film journal to fetch the films reel with, which is I think a little bit of a nod to like the Fiona Apple album, which I'm trying to listen to full at the moment, being the Fetchable Cutters. But I do have the When the Porn album have on CD. But anywho, I can read you a little bit of an example of one written in my journal. Here's just one extract. Here's just the entire extract I've written just for the Superman movie directed by James Gunn, which I've done a review of it already, so you can check it out if you like. But here's the thing I've written. On the 12th of the same month, being July, I'd watched the Superman film with David Cossaret as the man who fell from the sky, Planet Crypto to be exact. I'd found the intrigue of the more modern DC movies to be fascinating, from the numerous worlds or franchises like the Joker one, the Shazam series, and the Batman world. Although DCEU is the main attraction, the drama that mired it was something else altogether. There was the push for the director's cut of the Justice League, which was successful, the Ezra Miller fiasco, the lack of creative freedom for directors, the Amber Heard drama, and a near constant change of direction for the chapter, which could demonstrate a lack of clear vision. The DCU's days were numbered after Black Adam flopped like a belly flop. James Gunn, along with Peter Safran, took over the DC studios. James Gunn was an interesting choice to direct this Superman movie, as his previous DC effort, being the 2021 Suicide Squad, did poorly in the box office but was well liked by critics. He also directed the MCU's success story that was the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, although that wasn't smooth either. Between the second and third Guardians of the Galaxy films, he was fired over some old yet problematic tweets that revolved around pedophilia, mostly. The backlash against Disney and Marvel was intense enough that after the actor's backing of Gunn and threats of leaving the franchise, Disney and Marvel caved in and said he's coming back for number 3, but he was directing the Suicide Squad for DC. So, They waited for him to finish so they can start on the third installment. I'd watched the film at the Ely Cineworld, a decently sized cinema that was just located outside of a city, and the screen I watched it with my mum and my little sister was bigger than I remembered. Maybe watching films nearly exclusively in one cinema does something to your brain or perceive things differently from after a long time away. I'd also been in awe when watching the Odyssey trailer came on, which, bear in mind, it hasn't been released on YouTube at the time of writing, guessing Nolan's idea for nostalgia for a trailer roll before the advent of the internet and video sharing sites. The film itself, Superman, if you somehow forgot, the film itself is really good at the movie's tone. That was a spiritual montage of the original Christopher Reeve films with a punky tenderness of James Gunn. His trademark edgy dialogue and really excellent use of needle drops, and the brilliant casting of David Kazowitz as a more cocky and vulnerable Superman. All in all, definitely one of the more better superhero movies post-COVID. The film was also the last film I put on my Cine-Note book, which is now complete. It was a little book I note the movies and date and watch in a cinema and give them a score based on story, writing, acting, music and visuals, and give them an overall score. It started on the 15th of February 2014 when I watched Frozen and Monuments Men on the same day. Now officially finished on 12th of July 2025 with Superman after 4,165 days, or 11 years, 4 months, and 27 days. So that's a little bit of an extract of my little journal I wrote. So again, let me know what you think if I probably publish this and give it to the entire world just to read it. So, what do you think of my journal keeping and, of course, my future efforts into writing? Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, and Threads, and dislike rolls, and bye.